welcome back to Changemakers Unplugged, brought to you by the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy. My name is Rebekah.
And I'm Ella, and today we are joined by our special guest, Ben Rocks, who is a junior in the Philanthropic Leadership Program.
So to start us off, Ben, would you mind sharing how you came to be at LFSOP?
Yeah, so originally I'm from the Chicago suburbs, so I was pretty much born and raised there. And growing up, I was always swimming and pretty much did that my entire life, essentially. And my dad was an optometrist and a business owner, and my mom, at the time, was working for the Red Cross. So I was kind of had those interests of business as well as like just helping other people, kind of sort of. So when it came time to looking for schools and also being recruited by schools, I came across what was at the time IUPUI, which is now IU Indianapolis. And I was kind of just looking for degrees, and I saw the Lilly Family School, and I was like, oh, this sounds really interesting. And I kind of was talking to a couple people, and they were like, oh, by the way, you can double major in finance. And I was like, oh, wait, that's really cool. So in a weird way, I like to say like that's how my parents kind of raised me, was the business side of my dad, and then kind of like the helping other people and, being very I don't know, just nice. I feel like a lot of people aren't nice anymore. And so just kind of bring that nice portion to, the business operations and kind of that. So I ended up coming to the Lilly Family School to major in, which is now philanthropic leadership. And then I'm also double majored in finance with the Kelley School of Business.
Cool. And you also are a student athlete.
Yeah, so I also got recruited to swim here as well, which was an added bonus. I'm through the men and swim and dive team, particularly swimming. I like to do mostly the sprint stuff, so nice and short.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great. So you mentioned that you're double majoring in finance.
Correct.
How do you plan to use that with your philanthropy degree?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I was asking myself that the first year too. Kind of like learning about the nonprofit sector. Like I said, I always had kind of the preconceived notion of what I thought it was. But just like a lot of people that come here, they don't realize how big the sector truly is and the different facets that come into play, whether that's from an education standpoint, a government standpoint, and then the different entities within those of just, the multitude of different interests that people have and how they seek those out in nonprofits, whether it's disaster relief like the Red Cross, or whether there's foster success trying to get foster care into their cities or communities, whatever the case may be. And I kind of found my niche in community work, particularly like foundations. I find their work on how they operate within their community, whether that's an individual foundation that doesn't have any supporting arms or a big for-profit entity that also has a foundation. I think how they interact with the community as well as their overall goals, which is generally to help the surrounding area that they're in, is something that I found really interesting, as well as generally they are having more resources, so they're able to do things on a larger scale. And for me, I always like to aim big, so if I have the ability to interact with a larger resource budget, be able to interact with more individuals, that's something that I'm more than happy to take on. So ideally, I would like to end in a position that is working for a foundation of some sort, doing financial services, moving money around, being able to allocate resources effectively so we can bring the most change possible.
That's really cool. I didn't know you were leaning toward the foundation direction a little bit more.
Yeah, this has kind of happened to, I know you said you were going to talk about it a little bit more, but my previous internships kind of opened my eyes to that opportunity.
Okay, cool. Well, that's really neat. So kind of leading very well into our next question, where have you interned and kind of how did that lead to your interest in foundations now that you have?
Yeah, so my sophomore year, I'm a current junior. That summer I stayed in Indianapolis and interned for the Strada Education Foundation.
Oh yeah.
Which is technically not a foundation; they're an organization, but it's easier just to call them a foundation because they do so much work and they have their hands everywhere that they effectively operate like a foundation. And they're particularly focused on enhancing education and their pathways to employment and other entities within that. It's a huge problem with our society that people don't necessarily have the tools needed to get education in the first place, as well as transfer that. Okay, now I have the education. How can I get a full-time job, or how can I get an internship? All those things. And like I said, they're technically a nonprofit, but they are operating a lot like a foundation. So we got to interact with a lot of other foundations as a byproduct of that. And I was on the finance team for that, so I looked at our organization's investments, and they have essentially $1 billion profile. So as far as organizations with high dollar assets, Strata's pretty much at the top as far as that's concerned. So it was really cool watching their large scale and the amount of zeros that they have without a lot of things when they support organizations, whether that's within the Indy location. They also have a location in DC, and they do a lot of legislative work trying to push things to get passed or talk to the right people. So there's at least awareness to all those type of things. And then that kind of back centered into, okay, how do we move resources effectively to interact with the entities that we are talking to so we can put money behind our words and create effective change.
That's really cool. I didn't realize they were that far reaching with kind of the advocacy side as well as the foundation side.
Yeah, and that's something I think a lot of people take for granted, is that a lot of people just think nonprofits are just money pits that people throw into, and there's no actual action or voices behind the money that they're throwing into. And it's more like, no, there's actually a lot of research that is done. Okay, how can we effectively get our resources across to the people that need it the most? And with a lot of that, it comes back to legislative and being able to interact with government, whether that's your local, state, or even federal in a lot of cases, and seeing how you can make changes so that when other organizations that are maybe smaller and don't have the resources to advocate for education, let's put it, and Strata takes on that responsibility and does the advocating for them, so when they donate their resources to a smaller organization, they can more effectively use their dollars, and it goes more 1-to-1 ratio, if you will.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's awesome. So moving a little bit back to the student athlete, what is it like to be a student athlete while double majoring?
It's a lot. I'll be honest. I do enjoy it a lot, first and foremost. I have not known a life other than swimming, to be honest. So to kind of continue that in college has just been like a sense of normal, I guess. When the grand scheme of things, very rarely do people make it to college athletics, let alone a Division I program. So not saying I don't take it for granted, but it's just kind of been a continuation of what I've been used to. It's a lot of early mornings, and it is a lot of time management. I practice around 20 hours a week of straight activity, so that doesn't account for team meetings we might have, the to and from practices, the nutrition, the recovery, the just not wanting to go mindset you need to have sometimes. You kind of push through that to be like, all right, we need to get this done. And then like meets as well, having to travel for those. So that's kind of led me to forcefully adapt, because it's either you adapt or your grades are going to suffer, or you're going to athletically suffer. So I came very quickly to realize that I need a schedule, and I need a Google Calendar, or I need
Yes, the
a
Google
cozy
Calendar.
calendar or something along those lines to effectively manage my time. And it comes with its frustrations, and it comes with its moments of stress and questioning, why am I doing this? But then it also comes with its all-time highs of being able to, win a dual meet, win a conference, or have lifetime bests, or just to be next to people that when I first came here I had no idea who they were. Now they're my closest friends, and I'm traveling out of the country with them, or trips like that. It's something that is a family away from home, essentially. And people always talk about how cool it is, but to actually be able to interact with that and get to do it on a day-to-day basis, like, it's everything for me, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
That's so cool. Remind me what stroke you do?
So I do freestyle. So that's
Okay.
you're like a little flat and you got your arms everywhere. The really fast stuff. That's like the best
Okay.
way I describe it to people.
The really fast stuff.
Yeah. Not saying the other strokes aren't as fast, but the fastest stroke is freestyle.
Okay.
So
I didn't know that.
predominantly. So yeah, nice and short.
Nice. So, what are some of your favorite things about being a student athlete? You kind of tapped into that already, mentioning the sense of community that comes with it, and some of the different benefits that you get from it, like getting to see your personal records and things like that. Are there other aspects you also really enjoy about being a student athlete?
Yeah. I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but the sense of community is like first and foremost, and it's kind of reaching everywhere. So there is about, I want to say, 250 student athletes here at IU Indianapolis. So
Really?
kind of, it sounds like a lot, kind of not really. It just kind
I
of
feel like
depends
that's
on what
actually
you're doing.
less than what I would have thought.
Than what you would have thought?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, but there's 30 men on the swim and dive team, and then there's 30 women, so 60 total. So I guess we make up a large percentage of that. But going back to the community portion of it, yes, we all spend our time and our season doing our sport, but then outside of that, we do see each other all the time. So whether that's volunteering, we're very engaged in our community service, which I really appreciate, obviously being a philanthropic studies major. But as well as just like being able to go to the Pacers games or the Big Four tournament that we had hosted in Annapolis, and being able to just kind of interact with them and always have a sense of home when you're away from home. Whether I know I talked about home being our team, but it extends beyond just our team for the men's and women's team. It goes to soccer. I have friends in softball. I have friends in track and field, cross country. So being able to go somewhere that, hey, I know softball is playing this weekend. They won't be here, but someone in, cross country may be there, and just kind of always having a familiar face when you go somewhere in Indy is kind of appreciative. And you don't realize that from a social aspect until you're completely alone and isolated. And I like to think I'm a very social person, but sometimes you get somewhere and you're like, yeah, I don't really want to say anything. And then you see someone, you're like, oh, hey, it's Dave. And you go walk over to Dave and, just talk about him and, see what's going on with his season. So again, like I said, broken record, but community is one of the biggest things. And then outside of that, I would say it's like the connections. I know that's kind of very similar to the community aspect, but since there is so many student athletes that graduate and generally stay in the Minneapolis area, we have those networks that we can pick into. There was a coffee program that the athletic program kind of provides for people where it can be alums of the athletic programs, but a lot of times it's just business leaders in the Minneapolis area that know student athletes are hardworking people and just fun people to be around. So they want to talk to us and they want to learn what we're doing and why it's important right now, but as well as we want to ask them questions of seeing what they're doing and why it's important to them. And more so creating that kind of connection and building that community sense. Which for me, that has been transformational of being, yes, I've not necessarily utilized any of those connections, but I still regularly get coffee with one of the people I've met almost 3 years ago now.
Wow.
That was because of this, or a byproduct of this, I should say. And he's be like, anytime you ever need a reference, I'm always there. Or anytime I know someone that I can put you in touch with, like reach out. It's more than happy. So it always comes back to the people you interact with and the connections. I think is the biggest thing for me being a student athlete. Not saying you can't get that with just being a normal student, but that initial hold the foot open for the door for the person coming behind you, and as well as holding up the door for the person in front of you. I think that sense of connection and once again community is something that I think is the biggest pro of being a student athlete. Aside from all the fun stuff of being able to travel and meets and free food and stuff like that.
Oh, we love the free food.
Yes, as a college student, you can always never turn down free food.
No, never.
Where is the farthest that you get to travel?
It depends on the season. So our schedules rotate year by year. If you're talking in conference, generally the farthest we'll go is like Milwaukee, Green Bay. Out of conference, NCAA's. My roommate, he went to I want to say it was in Georgia. I could be wrong.
Wow.
Georgia. And then there's always a meet in Florida every season. So that's like if you don't make NCAA's, it's NCSA's. They go down there and compete after our conference season. So depends on how you want to pick it.
And then you're studying abroad soon,
Correct.
this summer, or
Yes.
So, and it sounds like traveling is a highlight also from your student athlete experience. Kind of how does traveling fit in with being a student athlete and studying abroad? Is that something you're passionate about, or?
Yeah. So I think traveling a lot through whether that's through athletics or just in general, you learn a lot how, especially with other people, you learn a lot how people travel, how much stuff they're gonna bring for how
Yes.
long a day is, or how we need to plan going back to the like scheduling aspect, especially with athletics. It is a tight regimen. So if you don't have your stuff together, you're not getting left, but you're getting left. You're gonna feel behind. You're gonna feel rushed, and then also like the school aspect of making sure, okay, did I get all my stuff done? Do I need to email a professor and say, hey, I need an exam pushed, or I need to take an exam early, something along those lines. That's kind of made me more of a effective traveler, I would say, or more efficient traveler. So now going to the study abroad, which I'm doing with two of my teammates,
Oh,
Dave and Tori, we're going to Vienna, Prague, and then Munich.
That's
We're
not
spending
fun.
around, I want to say 2.5 weeks there. So now that I've traveled with them for the past 3 years, I kind of know how they operate. I kind of know, where our efficiencies might be and where, we're probably gonna, get to the airport 4 hours early because that's what one of the people want to do with our traveling. And you don't necessarily know that until you travel with people. And I think that was one of the, pros, I guess, of being a student athlete sometimes is you are more understanding of other people's schedules and can be accommodative to their needs, as well as making sure that your needs are met, as well as knowing, okay, I should probably pack this because I know I'm going to, sweat a lot or whatever the case may be. Just kind of being more proactive for your traveling. I see a lot of people that don't necessarily travel as often, and I get it as a privilege to travel, but they'll go on like a road trip and they'll, only pack like 4 t-shirts and they're there for 2 days or 5 days or something along the line, where it doesn't necessarily make sense. You're like, why are you doing this? Or it's way colder, they're way hotter than what it is, and they're like, oh, I didn't pack for this. I'm like, did you not look at the Weather Channel? I don't really know, but
The Weather Channel.
all right. But in the grand scheme of things, yes, I think travel has freed myself to a lot of understandings I wouldn't have otherwise gotten if I wasn't a student athlete, and that has definitely helped my future in traveling abroad for the summer.
Cool.
Yeah.
So to wrap us up, do you have any last things you want to share, pieces of advice for incoming philanthropy students or student athletes for that matter, double majors?
Ooh, okay.
Sorry, kind of putting you on the
No,
spot.
you're good. So if you're an incoming philanthropy major, I would definitely say I hope you like writing and reading.
Yes.
As a business student, I know I get a lot of critiques of saying, oh, you just, move money around or, just do some drawings for homework. But philanthropy is a lot of reading and comprehension, and as well as like using your awareness of the community that you're in to be able to apply the knowledge that you have to not only use that in future internships as well as opportunities, but as well as just for your better understanding. And I think if you can get down reading effectively, because let's be honest, not everyone reads word for word the textbooks that everyone's providing us, and then being able to create summations or other summarizations of your readings and being able to verbalize that to your professor or just to one of your classmates, I think that will set you up for so much success for philanthropy majors, just as well as life. I think that's a pretty good life skill as well.
Agreed.
For dual majors, I would say similar to the student athlete thing, make sure you have your calendar planned to a T. Things will come up and it'll change, so you gotta always be flexible. But if you always have that base schedule you can fall back on, I think that's one of the best things a college student can have. If they don't have a schedule, they're gonna be so lazy, and I would be one of those people. So God bless
Same.
schedules.
And Google Calendar.
Yep, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah,
We
thank you for
appreciate
having me.
having you. So I think that's it for us. Thank you for watching.
Thanks.
If you found our conversation today interesting and want to come see the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy for yourself, you can schedule a visit with IU Indianapolis today.
You can do this by scanning our QR code or by following the link in the description.
If you would like to learn more about the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy, the Changemakers Unplugged podcast, or the Youth Philanthropy Initiative, you can visit our website,
philanthropy.indianapolis.iu.edu, or by clicking the link in our description.